Bishop Kenney, thank you for sharing time with us to talk about your 1-year anniversary as a bishop.
You're welcome.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Much has happened in the Archdiocese of St. Paul in Minneapolis since your ordination and installation as auxiliary bishop 1 year ago. I remember it was a blustery, sunny October 28th. What rises to the top when you reflect on this past year?
The amount of welcome and the amount of excitement that continues to be around me becoming bishop. But and being able to get out and meet people, go to parishes I've never been to before, and to be around and be present. And I think that's a big, big part of what we do as bishops is our ministry of presence, being present at different ceremonies, occasions, happenings, and just being a symbol of the church. And being able to do that as a bishop really, I think, brings hope into people's lives.
What has surprised you?
The grace that God has given to me through this, that I enjoyed it. It's been good. In the midst of, my first year, I was pastor, parochial administrator, another parish, chaplain at a high school, running a $1,800,000 capital campaign as Lord Renew Your Church, and then trying to adjust becoming bishop, but just the grace that came to be able to do all that and do it joyfully and with energy.
I was going to ask, how do you juggle all that? I've known bishops who are bishops, but you've added some other tasks.
Well, fortunately, I've let most of that go. I mean, I'm no longer parochial administrator at St. Cyril Methodius. I'm no longer chaplain at De La Salle. And we raised our money for the capital campaign. And so currently I'm pastor at St. Olaf and auxiliary bishop of St. Paul, Minneapolis. So it seems busier now than when I was before. So I'm trying to figure out how that has happened. But it's a good busy.
Well, certainly the Archbishop's 2022 pastoral letter, "You will be my witnesses, gathered and sent from the upper room." It's been something of a blueprint for the Archdiocese as it seeks to renew relationships in parishes through small groups and support parents as primary educators of their children in the faith. Other initiatives. An important part of the renewal is the Lord Renew Your Church campaign. Might you share challenges and blessings that have come from this campaign?
Well, for me personally, it was a challenge to find the time that was imposed on me to run this campaign at St. Olaf, to reach out to people. But I had a great staff, great assistants who were willing to help me do that. And so we were able to accomplish that as a team, to be able to sit down with parishioners who, I've seen for 7 years or may have known for 30 years when I was first at St. Olaf. The challenges came trying to find the time. But at the end, with God's grace, we came through, we made our goal, and that made everyone happy.
So did that entire first, that pilot phase, and that campaign continues.
It does. Phase 1 is now underway, and I hear that's doing very well. And, a couple of the priests I talked to say, well, it's hard. It's been hard raising that money, but they're surprised how people are giving, how generous people are.
Healing continues after the fatal August 27 shooting at the parish and school where you grew up in Minneapolis, Annunciation. Mm-hmm. Are there ways you've been able to help people recover from this?
I think one major area is prayer. That's to know the amount of people throughout the world who are praying for the Annunciation community. And that goes a long way. And then just, again, that ministry of presence when able. I know when it first happened, I heard about it. I went down to HCMC because I was at St. Olaf, and I thought, I'm 4 blocks away. And I would just go there and be a presence as families are coming in to find out about their loved ones, their children who may have been wounded or affected by this, and to sit with them while they waited to hear where their child was or what had happened. And just to be present there as a sign of the Catholic Church and, our care for each other. So that was one way. And then going over to Annunciation and just looking at the memorial that's been set up, but again, being present there for people because they would come up to me and as they saw my collar, just to be able to talk or to ask for some kind of prayer, which was really a blessing for me and I hope for them to be present. So I actually a couple of times told my associates, now just go over to Annunciation and stand there for an hour and just be present to the people who are there.
I recall that your coat of arms includes an image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And your ordination was held just 4 days after Pope Francis released an encyclical on devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, Delixis Nos. In your first year as a bishop, are there ways the Lord has revealed His Sacred Heart to you?
And personally, just in ways of being able to recognize that God's grace is there in my life, to be able to, at the end of a day, just to know that I've done what I can, and being a faithful servant of Jesus, and knowing that He was accompanying me, to thank Him and recognizing His presence with me. They're always celebrating the Mass, recognizing His Sacred Heart is there, and being able to do that in different parishes, different locations, to find that love. But especially in the children in school masses or times that I've spent with families, the children, you can see that the true love of Jesus in them, and the Sacred Heart is present and is revealed in those moments. To be able to go to a place and this young child just runs up and gives you a big hug, that's just like, wow, this is incredible that a child would do that,
Yeah.
And not to be afraid, not to be intimidated by the figure of what a bishop could be. And so if you're caring for people, loving people, if you are compassionate, and again, the ministry of presence is so important. I think that's what the Sacred Heart of Jesus is all about, is that connection with other people, the connection of giving of yourself. And people want that, they hunger for that, and that they want that connection with their bishops.
This reflection on your first year as bishop is part of our edition on vocations. I recall it took some time for you to discern that you could accept the Pope's invitation to minister as a bishop. Might you share some advice for men and women who are discerning their vocations to religious life or marriage or the single life?
Or to pray, and to take the time that you need in order to really discern that this is coming from your heart. And that was my big discernment process, was my head was saying one thing, my heart was saying another thing. And how do you reconcile that? And how do you truly, and even my vocation story, when I felt that call to priesthood, it was still that same thing, my head versus my heart. And for people discerning, prayer, listen to others, time with other people, to discern, and then just believing in yourself of who you are, and that's who God is calling you to be. And that was my biggest revelation when I was asked to be a bishop, because I thought, I'm not, I never thought I was bishop material. And then people would say, well, you're not being called to be somebody else. The Lord is calling you, Pope Francis is calling you, because they recognize in you your gifts, and that's what's important. And so oftentimes we fail to see that in ourselves. And we might know a priest or a nun or a lay person who's just the super person, and we want to be like them, but that's not what we're called to do. We're called to be ourselves and to allow the grace and the gifts that we have to come through.
You traveled to Rome recently to learn the ropes as a new bishop. What is that like? Tell us about the trip, what you can.
What we kindly call Baby Bishop School. It was long, it was tedious, and it wasn't anything new. And so everything was taught in Italian, so you had to be patient. And we had interpreters in our ear interpreting, everything that was said. Members of different dicasteries came in and talked about what they do. Others came in and just talked about the life of a bishop and what the bishop is, who we are for the church. And being the Jubilee Year of Hope, it was more just bringing hope into people's lives, hope into our world today. And the best part, I guess, was meeting the bishops from all over the world and getting to know them. And there were 12 newly ordained bishops from the U.S., and so spending time with them and getting to know them a little bit, and then bishops from, many other countries, was always interesting to hear their stories and talk with them a little bit and create relationships.
Was it a week long? How long were you?
It was 12 days.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was hot. It was humid. You're not in air conditioning except when you're in the session. Otherwise, and, the food was good. They fed us well. So overall, it was good. And then we got to go to the Mass of the Canonization.
Yes, I was going to
Carlos
ask about
Acuto
that.
and Pier Giorgio.
And you all met with Pope Leo XIV.
We did on the last day. He spent 3.5 hours with us. He gave us a talk for an hour, half in Italian, half in English, and then took questions and comments for another hour, and then took time with us all and had an individual photo taken with us, and we had about a minute to two just to chat with him.
Certainly he has Minneapolis in common with our archdiocese. He studied there. And then he wrote a very important message to our archdiocese after August 27th.
Mm-hmm.
Did any of that enter into your hello to the Pope?
Well, it did. When I first greeted him, I said, I'm from the Archdiocese of St. Paul, Minneapolis, and I thanked him for mentioning us after the mass shooting in the Angelus and for the letter that he sent to us. And I reminded him we both went to CTU in Chicago, the Catholic Theological Union, and that I wished him then a happy birthday because his birthday was coming up that following Sunday. And I had brought with me a button from the 100th anniversary of Annunciation, which was the summer before that I had received, and it was a VIP button from Annunciation. And so I gave him that button, told him he's a VIP at Annunciation. And then the residents at Little Sisters of the Poor had sent a birthday card with me, and so I gave him the birthday card from the residents at Little Sisters of the Poor. He, I was probably Bishop 189 out of the 200 to see him, so at that point he looked a little glazed over in the sense of, okay, just another bishop. Yeah. But he was very, very down to earth and very friendly, very welcoming and approachable. And what struck me, though, at the very end, he just, after we had our picture taken and turned to shake hands, he just looked me in the eye and said, "God bless you." Mm-hmm. And so I was like, that just really stuck with me. And the connectedness at that moment was something special.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. When you were at the canonization, where were you able to sit? What could you see? What was it like to be there in St. Peter's Square?
It was beautiful. We the altar was here. We were all off to the right-hand side of the altar, right up there on the platform. But it was like we were all baking in an oven set at 900 degrees. It was very hot that day. The sun was somewhat coming down on us, but the most impressive thing, two things, was that before Mass started, Pope Leo came out just dressed in his papal outfit and greeted everybody, welcomed everyone in a very nonchalant way and just making everyone feel at home. And then he turned around, went back in, and came out in his vestments to celebrate Mass. So it just, I think, created that warmth for everyone to be there. And then the second one was the parents of, to see the parents of Carlos Acuto who were there, to bringing up the gifts at the offertory and just thinking, wow, their son is now a saint.
Yeah, that's something.
Yeah.
You were Archdiocesan Vicar for Latino Ministry from 2010 to 2018, and now you're back at that same post. Are there particular challenges in this go-around and opportunities that you might share with us as Vicar for Latino Ministry?
Well, the challenges I have found are the community has become much more diverse. So we've had a lot more migrants, refugees, immigrants come in from other Latino countries, South American, Central American countries, where before it was primarily Mexican. And so a lot more Venezuelans, a lot more Ecuadorians, a lot more diversity within that culture. And so that adds a whole different dimension. People working in Latino ministry have changed out, and so that creates a whole different dimension as well. And so it's just getting to know all that again in the way of a cultural aspect and personnel aspect of who's working, what's going on, what programs. So the challenges then are, how do we bring that all together, and how do we see, as an archdiocese, where the Latino ministry is going?
Well, thank you for your time.
Oh, you're welcome.
And congratulations again on the 1 year. Is there anything more you'd like to share that I just haven't thought to mention?
Well, what I just thought of too is within the Latino ministry is walking with the people today, because there is a great fear within the community because of the immigration situation going on in the United States. And one never asks, are you documented or undocumented? But as a church, that we serve all people, we serve all of our brothers and sisters. But you can see the fear and the trauma that it's bringing children. And so how do you make them feel safe? How do you make their parents more secure in the sense of, well, I can go to work, or, if we're prepared, if something should happen, who will be taking care of the children and how will all that happen? So just working with families in that way. But that is frightening to think, okay, I may go to school and come home and my parents aren't there, and I may never see them again. And so it's, trying to be compassionate in that way is really the challenge for us today. And then I think coming out of Annunciation, the situation there, just looking at how do we keep our parishes safe, our schools safe. And then as a society, how do we bring gun safety into more of a visible and supportive way to keep automatic weapons out of hands of people who shouldn't have them. It's mind-boggling to me with this happening constantly throughout the United States. Something can't be done. Something has to be done, but it takes people to speak up in order to keep our children safe. And our brothers and sisters safe in church, and one another, safe in this world.
Thanks for sharing that.